Ooh. High stakes. Take me back to my theater days. I dig it.
And here we are. It's a Spoiler Room, a special edition. We are interviewing the director of a very fun, wild, outrageous film, Holy Hell, that's on the festival circuit right now. I'd like to introduce Ryan LaPlante. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, and you got the name right, so we're off to a great start.
I'm doing well. Usually, I don't usually do too well with names. So the fact I got that right, yeah, we're doing good all right so far. So, Ryan, why don't you, and I always like doing this with directors because I'm not really good at summarizing myself, but why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about what Holy Hell is about?
Holy Hell. Okay, Holy Hell is tasteless and offensive and the most hard R you can possibly find. It's been described as Rocky Horror meets Pulp Fiction, or the greatest trauma movie that trauma never made. If I was going to talk about the plot, it's the story of Father Augustus Bain, who's a good priest trying to do the right thing, and then he witnesses a family get murdered, goes crazy, starts praying to a gun he names the Lord, and hunting down the people who killed his parishioners.
So I've got to ask. Now you wore many hats for this. This is also your first feature. Where did the idea for this come from?
It came from the strangest place. So I was directing a production of the stage musical Rent. Mm-hmm. And I had a cast who were going through rehearsals, and it was all very emotionally honest and vulnerable and trying to help everybody be in touch with themselves. And it opened. And after going through that, I just wanted to write the most offensive, horrible, insensitive thing I could. And I, in like a flurry, wrote the first draft of Holy Hell in 3 days. Just like the moment it was done, I started writing.
In only 3 days. Nice. Yeah. And now for influences, I've seen a lot of influences here with Holy Hell. What did you pull from? Are you a big John Waters fan? Are you big kind of the subversive type of films, the grindhouse stuff? Or are you a big fan of those?
I've always loved subversive films. But interestingly enough, I had not actually been aware of John Waters or Troma when I wrote this. I became very aware of them after, and I am so much more fulfilled as a human now. But then I didn't know. I was a big fan of a lot of kind of Tarantino stuff, and I love Robert Rodriguez. And I mean, this is definitely falling into that same sort of like love letter to old grindhouse films that, you know, Machete, Death Proof, that whole kind of range, even Hobo with a Shotgun. Like, there's just such a great realm of this kind of, there's not even a term for it, I guess, neo grindhouse or like grindhouse satire. So that was kind of what spun me for this project specifically. But I love films. I love 80s movies, specifically like bad action genre films are just delightful. So I steal from everywhere.
So you've obviously probably have seen Kung Fury then.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, I have. An unforgettable cinematic experience.
Yes. And there's also a filmmaker came out, he's been doing similar films, did Manborg. I don't know if you've caught Manborg at all, but...
I have been desperately waiting to watch Manborg. I feel like it needs to be a special occasion with that title and that poster. Like, you've got to set aside a night for Manborg.
Now, with Holy Hell, this was your first feature, and had you done many shorts beforehand, or did you just kind of dive right into making your first feature film with this?
I jumped straight to feature. I'd never made a short. I haven't gone to film school. I hadn't done anything with anything. I'm just really stupid and start things right away. So, I mean, I'd watched a lot of films, and then I'd worked as an actor, so I'd worked on some, you know, TV series and commercials and that kind of thing. But this was just a huge leap. Like, I read a lot and pulled together the best team I could. And then we all just kind of went out guns blazing, both metaphorically and literally. But the thing I think I also knew is why we wanted to do this kind of like neo grindhouse style comedy was there are certain things when it comes to budget or you know, technical skill sets where we might not be, you know, the best. Like, we're going to do our best, but it's not going to be necessarily, you know, top tier in every category. So we decided, let's do something that lets us lean into it. Like, I thought, let's play off of the things and make it all kind of fun choices. So I gave a list to people on anybody who joined the crew or the cast. And it was like 10 rules for our like grindhouse filmmaking. And one of them was, if we can't do it well, let's do it so poorly that it's clearly a joke. So there's a scene where the villain is like unveiling a cross, and in the script, you know, it's like a red velvet curtain over it and all this. And then we got there, we were like, we don't have red velvet. What do we have? And we had a selection, and I was like, teal sequins. That's the answer right there. That's the weirdest thing we can use. Or people be like, shouldn't we bring a chair into this room? And I'm like, no, there's a broken toilet right there. We're just using the broken toilet. That's all I want.
Oh man, the broken toilet scene.
Yes, I like to describe that in a non-spoilerish fashion as just the world's most inappropriate, intimate moment.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. I don't want to spoil too much either, because there's so much with it. Now, you mentioned assembling the group of people. The people that you got together, were they people that you knew through theater and through personal connections and that you pulled together for this?
Yeah, pretty much everybody, actually. Most of the offers for actors were made by me calling people I knew. Like, it was all offer only. We never had auditions. I wrote a few roles with people very specifically in mind. Michael Raleigh, who plays Dokes McFarlane, our lead villain, who's also my co-producer, who I could not have done this without. He is the man. Nobody else can carry like 10 minutes of James Bond dialogue at the end of a film quite like he can. But I wrote that role specifically for him. I didn't tell him that I wrote it for him. I didn't tell him about it. I just sort of invited him to a table read and had him read it. And then he wanted to play it. And I was like, yeah, got him. And Alyssa, I've known, we went to university together. So we did theater together for years. And then she has been doing brilliantly well with, Berkshire County, AKA Tormented. She's also in Slasher, the series that just came out. She's got a role in that. And Bed of the Dead with Black Fawn, which is coming out, I think, later this year. She's also starring in that. So we caught her at the beginning. I'm really hoping she's like the Jennifer Aniston to our Leprechaun. Like, I just want her to go huge and just be embarrassed by our film. It'll be great.
But then people will seek it out when she makes it big. So there you go.
Our poster, just like Leprechaun, it'll just be Alyssa's face. There won't be anything else. Just be the title, Holy Hell, in Alyssa's face.
She did play that up well, though. I really liked her character, how you wrote it. But every character in here was memorable. Was it tough to write characters so that they were unique? Because I've noticed in some grindhouse homage type films, you kind of get the ball of bad guys, and they all kind of seem similar. But you really gave each villain, each member of the family, if you will, very unique personalities. Did that take a while to come up or tweak, or did the?
Well, I kind of knew off the top that I wanted them to be really different, because there's like the temptation, and a lot of films do this, and it works really well. So don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking anybody else's. I love them, but yeah, it's kind of like where you have 5 characters and they all wear the same outfit, and then they show up and they're all the same person. And for me, I felt like the most twisted families that I know, or the craziest like groups of friends I know, they're all completely different. They just have this weird dynamic that sort of somehow functions within it. So I kind of had some archetypes that I kind of wanted to play within, and then I got actors who I knew would bring even more to it. So we had kind of like the crazy drag queen. We had the like vampirella, like vampire seductress. I wanted like a roid rage cokehead, like frat boy. And then that kind of like megalomaniacal, like tyrant gangster father. And then I brought in a great, like, our costume designer is fantastic. Jill LaPlante, yes, related, still amazing. But she came in, and then we kind of came up with themes for each of their outfits for like what we wanted. And like some of the fun stuff that we have, like Buddy, the Roid Rage guy's hats with all the names on them, like that's her. She was like, I got a great idea for him. Or the longest one it took us to figure out was Dokes. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I want him to have a mesh shirt on at all times. That was my requirement, because Michael's a pretty ripped dude. But she came up with the necklaces, the earrings, and then kind of her big push was, what are we doing costume-wise? So I said, okay, we'll do him theme costumes. Like, he's got his mesh shirt always. And then I was like, every costume should look like it's been taken from the set of a 70s porno. Like, I just want all of that. So if you watch, he's always in sort of a porno-ish theme outfit from the 70s.
But it is fitting for his character, though, so I will say that.
He is a deeply pornographic man, that character.
He is. Now, was it tough for you as well? Because you play the priest character in this, and was it tough for you to be both acting and directing, especially with this being your first feature? Did you run into many challenges with that?
Luckily, I had some really good people around me. There were some challenges on set because, I mean, trying to review takes were pretty funny. So half the time, if you see any scene where I'm like bleeding or on the ground, I would end up glued to it because there would be so much blood. And so we would have to have somebody like stand over me holding a monitor for me to like, okay, let's roll it back. And then I'm like watching it. And then they'd go put it away and we do other takes. But the nice thing about Father Bane is he's around a lot, but he doesn't say much. Like he just shows up and it's like one-liners and like weirdness. Originally, I planned on playing a smaller role. I figured I'd probably play Officer Blank or kind of one of the supporting characters. But due to the nature of the shoot going over for so long and with so many people's schedules, the only person I could guarantee would show up every day was me. So I had to play that one.
It works though, especially the way the film opens, how we get introduced to the father. Now, for the father's church, for the location, how did you pick that? Because it looked like it wasn't in the best of neighborhoods.
Yeah, we had an actual town that was absolutely amazing called Kirkland Lake that gave us permission to shoot exteriors there, just blanket anywhere we wanted. So we kind of shot all our exteriors in the area. And of course, we leaned towards areas that might be less flattering towards the town, but it is a beautiful place. And everyone there is amazing. We had like the most help in the world. And if you don't shoot the few places we were at from the exact angle we were on, I promise it's nice. Kirkland Lake, please don't be mad at me. I love all of you. I love all of you, and I know you're gonna watch this. But and then we ended up some of the interiors we ended up having to construct because, as it turns out, with this script, nobody wants you to shoot in their church. I don't know why. I have no idea why. Nobody wants you to shoot, it's, you know, erotic scenes in their church. So
who would have thought, right? I mean,
yeah.
come on. I mean, you have a showdown with a man named Diablo. I mean, that's perfect good against evil right there.
I know. I thought it was a beautiful message.
You know, with a rather
and he's saved by the power of love. That's how I'm going to say that and not spoil it. All of these puns and jokes make sense once you see the movie. I promise anybody listening to this.
Oh, and every time you mention it, it just brings back the scenes, which is great. Was there any time, I have to ask, was there any time while you were writing this script where you said, maybe that's going too far, or did you just let it fly and let it go and just see where it went?
Generally speaking, I wrote it to be tasteless. So, I mean, I'd go back and rewrite and go like, what offensive thing haven't I included? And then try to add that in. But there's one scene. It is, I would say, the familial intimate moment, as we discussed earlier. That scene was not my idea originally. I did the table read, and that particular beat did not exist in the story. But then the actor playing Dokes, Michael Raleigh, and somebody else who was there reading, Sissy, kind of sat down with me at the bar, and they're like, you did everything else in the entire world and not this? Like, you're wussing out. You have to write it. And it was kind of a combo thing where I was like, okay, hey, if that's going to be the challenge, I'm going to write it and we're going to put it in. But I'd also thought of something like that and never thought I could get actors to do it. Where I'm like, hey, how about we do this scene? Actors are still people. I mean, none of us really have dignity, but like there are still lines people don't want to cross, and they were willing to just skip over that one. So, and yeah, I guess there's one thing I didn't think I could get away with, and the actors bullied me into it. So just anything is possible on my sense.
I was going to say, was there a point where the actors kind of read the script and went, no, I'm not doing that? Or they...
And there's one other. My DP read the whole script and loved it, but he made one requirement. There was originally a scene where we put the baby in the microwave and it exploded. And I was a really big fan of that. I thought that was going to be hilarious. But my DP said, he was like, I'll shoot the whole movie. I'll put all this time into it, but you can't kill the baby in the microwave. That I will not do that scene. Like, my girlfriend will leave me. My family will disown me. We can't kill a baby in a microwave. So he agreed, and I stood by that and came up with a worse way to kill a baby that he regrets even more.
Well, fine. If I can't do my homage to Gremlins with baby in the microwave instead of a gremlin, come up with something worse.
We'll just do something worse. As always, I think everybody regrets any moment where they've said, nah, let's not do this, because there's always a more creatively terrible way to do the same thing. By the way, yes, a baby dies in this movie.
Well, because you cover the whole gambit. I mean, I think if you can think of something kind of outrageous that could happen, reminded me a little bit of Feast. I don't know if you've ever seen any of the Feast film at all, but they go outrageous like that as well. The first one was good. They actually made a trilogy, but definitely in that vein too. Okay, what can we come up with? And a baby dies there as well, quite horribly. So poor babies in indie films. So with this, how long did it take you to shoot this film? Because you were working on a limited budget, you said.
Yeah, it's true. We sort of shot the film over kind of 8 or 9 months, not straight up. Like it was like weekends, because I mean, Alyssa shot 2 other features in the midst of this, and other people's availability was kind of bouncing in and out. So we ended up shooting a lot of kind of weekends or whenever people had time off. So we shot over that long, but it's probably the equivalent of a 22 or a 25-day shoot.
Wow. And now, did you get all the funding through Kickstarter or Indiegogo, or did you get...
we ran an Indiegogo campaign that I would describe as a medium success. Otherwise, production was funded by myself and my co-producer, Michael Raleigh, on credit cards and Insanity. But then towards the end, once we'd shot the whole feature, I mean, the trick was, as a first-time director, like, nobody's wants to get in at the beginning of that process because of how many first films fall apart or they aren't at the quality level that an investor would hope for. But once we'd shot the film and edited kind of a rough cut together, we could go to investors and say, here's what we have. Help us out with the, like, come in for the post-production and we'll just make this like better. And at that point, it was a really quick turnaround. We had some really great investors who were really excited about the project. And their only requirement was that I couldn't name them because the content's insane. So thank you, unnamed investors. You're the best.
No, for your props for your guns, where did you get those from? Because some of them look really good and authentic, especially the Lord.
Yeah, the Lord was was the majority of the gun budget.
Yeah,
it's interesting because in Canada we have really strict replica laws for guns. Mm-hmm. In the States, I could have got anything I wanted, but in Canada, it's actually illegal. You have to have like the paperwork to be able to own the real gun to own a replica that looks like it.
Wow.
You have to be cleared either way, except if it is a replica of something that was a weapon before like 1898. It's the weirdest rule, but that's the rule. So there's a place called Denix Replicas. They make an 1876 cavalry revolver, and we chased down the fanciest one. And that is the Lord. So it's had a little bit of kind of custom tweaking to it, but that's where we got it from. So you can either go and get your own Lord there, or I'm sure we'll be selling them on our website for twice the amount when the film gets released. But it's amazing. If you're watching any indie films from Canada, this is like a big thing that's kind of funny to notice. Almost every time somebody has a gun, it's a revolver. And it's because they can get all the like cavalry and like Old West revolvers are legal. So that's why every indie Canadian zombie film, everybody has revolvers.
I was wondering about that. And it seems like the Canadian film scene really has blown up over the last 5 years or so, 5-7 years. Have you experienced that? Have you met a lot of filmmakers lately with doing the festivals and that from Canada? And is there any idea of maybe collabing later on?
Yeah, there are actually a lot of Canadian filmmakers, and horror especially is having like a really big push right now in Ontario, Toronto especially. So I'm seeing a lot of other people's films and kind of checking it out and chatting a little bit. I mean, it's an interesting thing. Our feature is going to play. I mean, we've played something like 7 festivals so far, and we've got another 5 or 6 lined up. And we're still waiting to hear back from more. We've had great success in the States, and we've had great success at like Vancouver, which is out there. But we are just, I think, a little too crazy for Toronto. We're waiting to find our home at a festival here. So I think it'll be maybe easier to collaborate with people once they've seen it. Sure. Otherwise, they watch the trailer and they're like, you could just be insane. And I mean, I am. So once they see the movie, they'll know. But I'm excited for some of the collaboration. I've got some opportunities and some scripts in development. I think some more projects moving forward. I will definitely be kind of branching out both here and in the States, hopefully.
So what is kind of some of your favorite horror films? You've mentioned that you like the grindhouse films and that, but are there any classic films or anything that influenced you as well or that you enjoy?
Absolutely. I mean, we've all got to go back to the stereotype, but The Exorcist is amazing. I
Mhm.
mean, I laughed an inappropriate amount when I saw it because I hadn't seen it until like 3, 4 years ago. And everybody's like, it's the scariest thing ever. And I was howling with laughter at some of the dialogue because I was like, I can't believe anyone's made this movie. Like anybody showed some of this stuff on screen is mind boggling. Hellraiser, also, I'm a huge fan of. I like the whole kind of twisted world and the mindset. I think Pinhead is such a great character with just the really heightened dialogue and then just the perverse mind that wrote that screenplay. Like every one of those characters is a horrible sexual monster.
Yeah, everything Pinhead says is epic.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. And then the last line before that guy gets torn apart is like, Jesus wept. And I'm like, oh, beautifully heightened dialogue. And then I love the first Halloween, the very, very first one, where none of it's explained and it's just that like creeping horror from the outside. Just fantastic.
Now you mentioned the voice with Pinhead. You do a specific voice for your priest once he has his enlightenment and joins the work of the Lord. What did you use for your inspiration for the voice in that? Was it the Grindhouse films from like Tarantino and that, or?
Honestly, I didn't think about the voice all that much. I just felt like I wanted him to be like light and kind of cheerful off the top. And then I just wanted him to be as like deadpan and one note and humorless. And like after he turns, my system was like, okay, I think I want him to have like 3 emotional states. Like I either want him to be furious or I want him to be confused. Okay, 2 emotional states. Furious or confused. That's about it. And there were days where it's like acting, I'd do more.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd go in the editing room and I was like, oh God, none of that. No, I don't want to see acting. No acting for this role. Just craziness.
So was it tough a bit because you did editing as well, editing your own stuff? I know some directors, this is a tight film, for the run length and that, but I know some directors have a little tougher time trimming down some of their stuff. Was it kind of tough to cut some things out that you want to maybe keep in?
We never had to cut a scene. All the scenes are still there. We just kind of cut around a couple of moments and just tweaked some stuff just based on kind of what we got on the day. Because I mean, a lot of these scenes would come down to we'd travel so many hours, we'd shoot for 5 or 6 or 7 hours, and then we'd have to travel back.
Mm-hmm.
But what I did, we did a lot of test screenings. We'd bring in like a group of 20 or 30 people, and we'd show them the film and have them fill out comment cards and go through what they liked and didn't like. And some of them would be people who knew the movie and were involved, and some of them would be people who had no idea whatsoever, where to be like, hey, can you ask your friend who doesn't like this kind of movie to come watch it? And then we'd recut based on the notes. And we had some like editing consultants, I'm calling them, where I'd bring the film over and I'd sit with them, and then we would cut it based on like their suggestions. So it was one of those things where if it had just been me, I think it would have been much harder and not as great. But doing that kind of collaborative thing, I think focus testing like that can be great if you then get to make all choices on changes yourself.
And not a lot of films do that, so I'm impressed that you got some focus changes. And I think maybe, come on, you did it just a little, just to see those people who had no idea what the movie was about, just to see their reaction, right?
Oh, I very much enjoy that. I think we've had a walkout in most of our screenings, depending on how many there are. And I sit in the back row at screenings because I like to watch people watch the movie. And I end up giggling maniacally when the audience is uncomfortable. It makes me so happy.
I think a number of filmmakers out there don't take quite as many chances as they should because everybody's worried about marketability with it. But I mean, holy hell! I mean, I know so many people that saw it in Milwaukee who loved it. So
yeah, we ended up winning the Audience Choice Award at the festival, which was great.
Yeah, and and I think it definitely, especially now with the internet and that, you can find your audience, I think, a lot more than maybe 10, 15 years ago when you didn't quite were able to get your exposure out there as much with that. So yeah, people walking out. That's funny. You mentioned the giggling though, because Green Inferno. Have you seen Green Inferno at all?
No, I'm so desperate to see it.
When Green Inferno was surprised me that it got wide release here, because a film like that, wide release in mainstream theaters, you know, it's like, no offense, but it's like Holy Hell being released widescreen to, you know, thousands of theaters. You just don't picture a film like
No,
that.
that would be a bad idea. I mean, I love it. I will be giggling maniacally for the rest of my life should that happen.
But I giggled when Green Inferno, because I'm like, oh, great, a cannibal film, a wide release. So I actually drove to the theater that was showing it here, and my friend and I went to see it, and I was giggling throughout all the gory scenes, and people were looking over at me like I was some twisted person. But it's just the fact of seeing something like that and seeing a filmmaker do that. And I did the same thing while watching your film. I will say that I giggled throughout.
Amazing. Good.
You know, and it's one of those things where it's that giggle where I shouldn't be laughing at this. I shouldn't be laughing at.
Yeah, you're a bad person. I'm a bad person for making it, and all of us in the audience are bad people, and that's it. We get to enjoy it together.
We do. So where is it headed to now? Where can they possibly, what fests are they showing up or coming up next for Holy Hell?
Yeah, we're playing at the Horror Hotel, which is in Hudson, Ohio, coming up in June. Then July, we are in Vancouver, British Columbia. We are at the Cinema Fantastique Festival there in early July, so that'll be fun. We are at the American Grindhouse Festival, which is in Texas at location undisclosed in August. Once they let me know, I will happily let everyone know. Then we're in Monrovia, California, which is just outside LA, in September, and then we're in San Antonio, Texas at the San Antonio Horrific in October. And those are just the ones we know about so far, because we have plenty more entries that we'll hear kind of closer to as things progress.
So you're doing kind of the States tour now, huh?
Yeah, seriously. It has been great. I mean, previously we've played Buffalo, Portland, Ohio, Milwaukee, Detroit. Like, we've had a good kind of run as well. It's going to be the year of the Lord, you know?
The year of the Lord. That needs to be a poster, just the gun with the sunlight coming from the back, and it says the year of the Lord.
Ooh, maybe a t-shirt.
A t-shirt. There you go. It'd be a t-shirt. And then, you know, TIFF, like you said, Toronto doesn't seem to warm up to it yet. You should show it at TIFF. There you go.
Oh my God, we applied to TIFF. I had high hopes that were not very realistic. It was great.
Well, they do have a midnight showing screening, so you never know.
It's true. We will, you know, pray. If the Lord is with us, it could happen.
You could take the Lord to those people who do the judging and bring the Lord to them and say,
yeah, exactly. And then they'll find out if his words are kind or not. You know, depends on how it goes. We've had some great responses from some kind of really big festivals where even if they're, you know, going to have to pass. We had one where they messaged us and were like, I just wanted to let you know, we don't normally send out personal messages, but your film scored the highest with half of our judges of any film and the lowest with the other half of our judges of any film. So your score wasn't high enough to screen, but you really should know, like, there's something here.
There is something for everyone out there now. And yeah, Holy Hell surprised me. I didn't know too much about it when they sending it to me for judging. And then I saw it and I was like, oh, yeah, it's a unique film that I think a lot of people should check out. So I think we'll wrap it up here just real quick. Why don't you tell folks where they can find more information about Holy Hell on the interwebs?
Awesome. Yes, please. I mean, we have our IMDb. You can look us up. We're the 2015 version, not 2016. That's a documentary produced by Jared Leto. We get a lot of tweets from people thinking we're them, but we're not. We've got our Twitter account, which is @HolyHellFilm. We're pretty active on there, so please tweet at us. We'll tweet at you. It's not just info about the film. We also do a lot of kind of joke stuff based around characters and other things, so we try to keep that entertaining. Or follow us on Facebook, which is great. I mean, do all of the above. But we're facebook.com/HolyHellTheFilm. So you can track us down. We're very active on social media. I mean, myself, if you're looking for me, it's @the Ryan LaPlante. Spell like the name. You can find it all those places. I'm not going to say my name spelling now.
No.
But please, like follow along. We're really excited to kind of interact with people. If you're interested in a festival or you want to do a screening of something outrageous, shoot me a message. Like, it'll be great. We're very enthusiastic about those things.
Now, are you still going to run the festival circuit for a while, or are you looking for a distribution yet for it, or have you not gone that far yet with it?
We're in talks with a couple of different distributors right now. We're actually bouncing back and forth. We kind of have had 3 that have expressed interest. If there are any other distributors out there interested, shoot us an email, message, however you please. Dear God, we'll always welcome more. But we're going to do the festival circuit kind of for the rest of this year is our big push. We really want to get out there. We want to meet the fans, and we want to give people opportunities to see it before, you know, it's out there for wild distribution.
For wild distribution. That's a good way to put it.
Wild, so we'll just keep with it.
It is a wild film. There's something to offend everyone there, I think.
I'm offended by it, and I made it.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think I enjoy films that take risks. I really do. And I was happy to see a film like yours take risk. I was involved actually in one as well as a assistant director, a director's assistant for it, script supervisor for one too. That is kind of out there, and it's not going to be for everyone. But I think we need more films like that out there, and independent cinema seems to be the place to come from, especially Canada.
Yeah. I mean, we wanted to push the crazy. I think the other thing that I expressed for people who've heard all this like baby murder stuff, the movie itself is more outrageous than cruel. Like, our goal was never to make, because there are like some mean movies where you watch it and you're like, oh, these are bad people doing bad things, and there's like not a lot of fun. Like, our point was like, it's offensive, but it's not actually about like a whole, it's not really a comment on religion. Like, that's not it. It's sort of a fun adventure set in all these like unacceptable joke territories. But we're not trying, it's a movie about a priest who shoots people in the face. So it's not, you know, Citizen Kane. I don't have a secret underlying theme.
Yeah, you can tell that the film doesn't take itself seriously, and I think that's part of the appeal, is that you know that. And from talking to you today, you know, you can tell you have fun. You're aware of what type of film you're making, and I think that helped all the actors as well. It seemed feel more comfortable with it, because you all know we're not trying to make a serious, gory or serious, offensive. We're just having fun, and I think that comes across on screen.
Excellent. So, good. That's what we hoped.
So, Ryan, I think we'll just wrap it up here real quick. I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to us here on the Spoiler Room. We appreciate it. Seek it out, folks. Holy Hell at the festival, hopefully near you soon. And I'll put the information and links in the body of this interview. I hope you've enjoyed it, got a little insight, and wetted your whistle for this outrageous, highly offensive film. That's just a whole lot of fun. So thank you all, and thank you, Ryan, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Praise the Lord.